Yes, I think that's the word.
Yeah, no. So my question is, what is that called when that democracy you're talking about is not there?
When you're saying what is that called when that democracy is not there?
Is it
That
even a
means
thing? What then do we have? Can we still call it a democracy? Does it have a
mm,
name of what? How does it identify?
then we now have an oppressive government that is under the ruling party that is in government. That's how we would put it, because then we're no longer allowed to speak. We're not longer able to get recourse, and we're not able to defend our voices. Then we have got other institutions, other institutions like the police, the army, and those also need independence. If they are now also now answerable to the executive more than they're answerable to what we as the owners of the government want them to be doing, as mandated in our constitution and the different laws that we allow to be there, then we also missing out on their protection from us, an oppressive setup, because there is we did do a topic on the oppressive setup, what it means to be oppressed. How do you know you're oppressed? What are the signs of oppression? The signs of oppression is when these institutions are no longer independent, and the people no longer have the right to speak up. When you speak up, the police are sent to you. Who's sending the police? The executive. But the executive are people who are sent into your office. That means us, we no longer have the power as people. The power is now in the executive. And we do not have a say, because when you try to have a say, the executive will use the power of institutions that were supposed to be independent of the executive, and they start using those powers on people. And that's also influencing like arrests of corruption amongst the executive. When the executive is corrupt and the police are not independent to function, to be able to put those people, take them to court and have them and investigate those cases, because the executive is now telling them, uyu mwana wa minister, I cannot go and do an investigation. A police officer who's supposed to be serving the people of Zimbabwe goes to the doorstep of a minister and finds, Basarno parent, that job is threatened. That means those institutions no longer have the freedom that we expect them to have in a democratic setup. Okay, did I
Okay,
do that correct?
so from my understanding, what you are painting there is what is called a polyarchy, where all arms of government work very well independently and it's kumbaya. I don't have an example on this planet of a country that is that. Next to that, you get what they call an electoral democracy, where the elective part works very well. That when somebody, because these three arms still try to achieve a polyarchy situation where everything is perfect. But when somebody fails, their elective process is able to remove and replace through the political party or through the people themselves. Or should there be a problem where people don't understand, it still goes back to people contributing to that by either protest or by either referendums. So there's the elective part of it that keeps these things in control. Now, from there, when things start intertwining and one arm has more authority over another, this is when we start getting authoritarianism getting into the picture. Because usually the executive will have authority over the judiciary, and the judiciary cannot exercise its independence, because most of the time in those kind of situations, the executive would be pointing or nominating who goes onto that bench, exactly what we have in our country. Or in parliament, should somebody who is not towing the lines of the party, that party that the executive controls can then just recall that person, and then they keep the order that they want. So the executive still has authority over parliament. Now, they will also still have the electoral part of it, where opposition parties do participate and they are part of that parliament, and they can, on a regular basis, compete for this executive role. And usually those oppositions, they want an opportunity that when they become the executive, they then give back the powers to the judiciary and give back powers to parliament, so that this independence, we can go back to either an electoral democracy or a polyarchy. That's what they are trying to do there. In that case, where those opposition parties are doing what they are doing, but it's very difficult for them to even change, because now the electoral part, because of the authority of the executive, is now tainted. That's where you now see election bodies are now also being ruled over by the executive. They have authority over that as well. Or they can use whatever arms of or instruments of the government, like police or military, to go and command people to vote for them and nobody else. That then becomes a competitive authoritarian. They will still have their authority and create a facade of the competition of elections as if it is there. However, you still get to another level where now that competition does not exist. No matter what you do, you already know that these people are not going to leave power. The judiciary cannot say anything to them. The parliament has no control to put these people in check. You then get to a level that they call hegemonic authoritarian. So to put this into perspective, competitive authoritarian, for those who were putting Zimbabwe in the context of what I was just saying, is what we were when Mugabe was there, and parts of the time when Mnangagwa came in and did these 2 elections. But now when they started destroying the opposition parties, and the opposition parties now act as a separate wing of the main ruling party, you then create a hegemon where you have control of all these things, and you can actually make sure that no competition happens out there. It is now open, that we are not trying to pretend as if they are fair elections or whatever. We know we are not going to even waste our time. It's not going to happen. Enter Cape 3. You then graduate into this hegemon, the dominance that SANU-PF has over the whole state. There is also another level that goes beyond that, where you are fully authoritarian. Places like Cuba, that places like China also don't even bother. Russia tries to pretend to do election. I don't even remember what happens there from the top of my head. But what I'm trying to show you is there is this concept of a polyarchy, of a democracy that functions very well, that has never not existed anyway. And us in this spectrum, from democracy to authoritarian, we have shifted so much that for us to even talk about our country as a democracy, or to look at judiciary as a place where things can be judged over fairly with independence, and that magistrate or high court judge will not have any consequences on the decisions that they write, it is long gone. Where parliament can actually look at the situation in the country and say, we need to legislate laws that make sure that these people can actually have a sustainable life, where they no longer do that, and they make sure whatever the executive is trying to say happens, and they vote for those things. So we are far removed, which is what I'm just trying to say, from a democracy. At this point, we are clearly a hegemonic authoritarian. And when you have that kind of a system, why I had a disagreement with you earlier this morning, and why I still have a problem with your position of still wanting people to understand this. We need to move to a level where people actually understand where we are right now, and what they are doing, and how they are doing it. What tools have they moved from? We no longer see Border Gez youths going into people, beating them up to control people. It's no longer happening. They are using other methods that we don't even understand. when Chivayo does whatever he does, there are still people who don't understand and just say, it's his money, guys. Let him do what he wants. You can't force him. If you also have money, go help the hospitals. He is doing what he wants with his money. Go get your money. Because people don't understand that, or they refuse to be truthful about the situation. So there is a stage that we are at right now that people don't know about, that people don't understand what's really going on, and where is this coming from? Where did they get it? How did they perfect it? What are the steps that they've moved from to get us to where we are? I think that will help our people to really appreciate the oppression, because when somebody is told that you're oppressed, they don't even get this picture. They just know things are tough, but a man is gotta do what a man is gotta do to bring food on the table.
Yes, yes, I do understand what your point of how things can be tackled in your point of view, in your methods of addressing the things. But what we are doing is giving the education so that people can look at the situation and see where they are not getting their voices heard and start looking for ways to get their voices heard. But remember, the Zimbabwean community is not active in anything political. There are very low numbers of people being active. We've seen that at the numbers that were given out, even from a CAB 3, the total number of people who vote, who go and vote during the voting seasons in our country, the number of people who attend public hearings, the number of people who attend any parliamentary hearings, the number of people who communicate with their councillors, the number of people who communicate with their MPs, that 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 space of active citizenry is lacking because of the way it is in
Where did
Zimbabwe
it
that
go?
people have. I feel like with Zimbabweans, we kind of like forgot our responsibility as citizens of Zimbabwe, because it's not like you just become a citizen and it's okay, you just go on. There are responsibilities that a citizen is supposed to be having, and some of those responsibilities include us having the people we sent to represent us to be accountable back to us. And if we don't do that accountability, we stop realizing of the power in numbers that we have. When we don't speak up, when we don't be active citizens, we need to be citizens that are more active in whatever civic responsibilities that we have, and not giving somebody our voice to speak for us, but we as citizens should be more active and more outspoken and showing that things that we're not happy about. And if we can start from within the small cells in our small communities, our wards, speaking up as a community united, we can get something done. But the thing is, these politicians are very, very smart. They'll keep us at each other's neck so that we don't get to that stage of unity. Because the same people, like Masuage in a certain area do not discriminate which political party you're coming from. Whether you come from party A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, right through to Z, Masuage in your community do not prevent you from walking over them because you belong to a certain political affiliation. We've made it political all the way that we've forgotten that post elections, whatever has happened during elections, whoever is in the office is accountable to the people of Zimbabwe. And because that person is accountable to the people of Zimbabwe, it's a responsibility of every citizen to start asking that person to be accountable. Because if we say, all right, atichabvunzi makansela kuti mari vari kudzishandisa sei kucancel, kuti why is this not being done, then we let them be derailed to be institutions that run amok without us, the owners of those institutions, taking back our power and telling them, no, we don't have councillors who behave in this way. We will not tolerate this. We're drawing the line. If we don't start there, then how else are we going to start dealing with a whole national issue if we're not starting within our small communities? That's how we thought would make a difference in our country if we started in our small communities, first giving accountability, getting accountability from the people around us, the ward leaders, the councillors, the MPs. Then now, as we continuously have people who are looking for accountability in different parts of Zimbabwe, we end up with a whole nation of people who want accountability, who can see where they are being shortchanged and speak up about it of their own. They don't like not really somebody come going up and start saying, tomorrow do not mudai, do not mudai. No, of their own. It should be an internal thing that I'm a Zimbabwean. I've got a right to speak up about certain things that are happening in my parliament. I've got a right to speak up about certain things that are happening in my council. I've got a right to speak up about the way the judiciary is working, the way the police is working. But all these things start from a citizen that knows what is their right, where somebody has crossed over from their responsibility and they're now no longer within the responsibilities that we have given them. And in that scenario, we're telling the people that they are the boss. Because honestly speaking, the people who are supposed to be the bosses of all these people that we start calling my boss because we've given them an opportunity to be ministers and everything, are supposed to be servants. That's why they're called civil servants. They're servants of the people. And if people don't recognize who they are and who they're supposed to be and their responsibility, their civic responsibility, then we've got a lacking in our communities.
But if you look closely, my sister, I think maybe...
Sorry, Dr.
Okay.
Nyan. I want to bring back, because you quickly went past the question that I had, that where did peace go? And I want to expand and say, was it ever there? Is there any time in the life of this country called Zimbabwe where people have exercised, or where people have seen this kind of situation that you are saying, or exercised this freedom? And how does their experience of not experiencing exercising that contribute to them not taking any action as they are expected to? Because it is very it should make sense that if something is wrong, you've got representatives of government, councillor, MP, that you should be talking to. But if I put you in Nyanga North, where your MP is wife to a military commander, and that military commander in 2018 is the one who sent his soldiers who shot people in the streets on the 1st of August. So how does that person in that community go to their MP and complain that you are not doing anything when they know that their husband is capable of serious damage? So there are certain things that we skip and we don't talk about, because those experiences that we are quiet about of what we know these people are capable of doing are the ones that will make us realize where the wrong is, because we all know it, but we don't talk about it. There's somebody right now who's listening who knows the thunder which happened on their next door when a house was being broken in by ZANU-PF supporters, and that family was beaten down, blue and black, and they've never said anything. The leaders in that household will tell you, close the curtains, everybody go and sleep. You will not speak about this, because you know the moment you speak, the next house is yours when the sun goes down. So those experiences, we are not talking about them. We can speak about all this structure of how it's supposed to work and why we are not doing anything. And we all know people are not moving. Zeti read two, wait, let me just end. 2 sentences of what, of new forms of repression that are being used that make any form of resistance impossible. And we don't address those things. We just see them as, it's just them doing what they are doing. So because those things are not addressed, people are not talking about that, people are not educated on that, trust me, we will always be here. We will never move away from where we are. no resistance will be built up by any 5 or 10, 15 or 30 people. Never. We'll still be here because we refuse to address those things.
My brother.
Can I just find out who refuses to address those things? Because one
You and me.
side, okay,
You and me.
Okay, I'll tell you something about Civic Engagement Forum. The first 15 chapters we dealt, including fear as a tool of oppression. It's a lesson within our channel that Zimbabweans have taken and listened to. They have come back and given us feedback. You see, our lessons come with numbers. They come back, they give us feedback. We've got a poll in our channel that talks about what stops them from speaking out. We're engaging the people on the ground in Zimbabwe. These are people in Zimbabwe that we are talking about. We talk about their fears and how we can help them deal with that fear. And that fear is only going to be something that we can say is going to be taken away only if there are more people who start speaking up. There are more people who start uniting. Kuti even we've got a problem. We can't speak about the in our drainage system in our area. So how do we deal with that? It doesn't start from somebody coming to say, go and do this, go and complain about this. It starts from them as communities deciding how they deal with their situation in their particular communities. That's what we believe is giving the people back their power, where we tell them, look at what is the normal model. What is the model you see on the ground? What do you think can be done to deal with the model? What are steps are you going to take? And we help them and guide them to do things peacefully, non-violently, to deal with these social problems that they're having. If we can get people in different areas coming together and saying about these problems, more people speaking about these problems all over, then we have more people speaking about the same problems that they are facing. But it's not confined to issues cinema WhatsApp and cinema X and the diaspora. It's now on the ground in Zimbabwe. It's not here on spaces, because here in spaces, when these people want to do their petitions to their councillors, you will not be there to be part of those that will go and hand over a petition. Kuna councillor wavo